Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel where I'm posting these free Linux tutorials. I've just posted install and configure Mint. The next one here before I do dual booting Linux and Windows is how to recover the grub. How to break it and recover it actually, in case you need that. Today though we're looking at file commands, section 4 of the Linux command line for beginners and Windows users. Actually, the last thing I posted was this install and configure Mint. So in this part of the course, in section 4, I'm trialing a Mint 20 VM and see if I've got everything set up in there for the course. When I have, I'll post that to the classroom and you can try that if you want to rather than the CentOS one. The usual thing here, please like and subscribe, please comment so I know what you're using and where you are, please send me feedback, recommend me on Facebook and to your friends and colleagues, and if you like, buy me a coffee. So, file commands. Here I've got open the associated PDF file, section 4. These are the links to iDrive, Dropbox, DigitalOcean, and the coffee thing, and this is the VM. So rather than the one down here, CentOS 08, I'm running Mint 20, logged in as KDM with the same files as we were using. So this section, file commands, is that big enough? Don't think it'll go any bigger. No, too big. Looks at copying, moving and removing files and using wildcards in file name generation, globbing it's called, or meta characters. So to copy a file you use CP. So here I can copy text1 to F1. I can use, good if I could type, let me start again. I can copy text1 to F1. I can use an up arrow and change that and copy it to F2. Each time it makes a new copy of the file. Now if you're going to copy multiple files, so suppose I now copy F1, F2 and text. Now when you do that, it assumes that the last thing in the line is a directory. Text isn't a directory. Actually it doesn't exist. An example, that should have been text1. So it says text1 is not a directory. So if you want to copy multiple files, you have to copy them into a directory. Now I can make a directory as we did before with mkdir, make n1, and then I can copy f1 and f2 into n1, lsn1, or cd to n1 and do an ls, and there they are. And we learnt about dot and dot dot last time, and this is where you might use them. I could copy a file called log file, which is in my SCR folder directory, by going up a level into KDM, down into SCR, putting the file name, and then a dot to copy it to there. Excuse me. This really is like the real world, isn't it? Sorry, I made a lot of mistakes today. There we go. I could also go up and get text1, which is in home KDM, and copy that here. And do an ls, and then I've got log file, text1, f1 and f2. Now when you're copying files, the output is overwritten each time. So if I copy text1 to f3, every time I run that, f3 is overwritten unless I make it interactive by using -i. Now if I just press return, it doesn't overwrite it. If I If I say yes, it does. There's my new F3, which would have been overwritten by F1. Now this is a good candidate for an alias. In fact, on a lot of systems this comes by default. On this one, it doesn't. We don't have an alias CP, but we can create one like this, if you remember. Alias the command to the command with an option, so it always runs with the option. So if I say alias CP is equal to CP minus I, then when I try and copy F1 to F3, it says, do you want to overwrite it? Yes or no? And if you want to be a permanent alias, because if you type at the command line, it'll be gone when you log out, what you do, if you remember, it's a shame, in a classroom, you make this interactive and ask questions, and then someone can pipe up. You put it in .bashrc. So yes, if I edit .bashrc, why is that? Again, another question. I'm not in my home directory, I'm in M1. This is why you have the prompt set. Go back to my home directory and edit it. There's my .bashrc. Go down to the bottom. I must find out the nano way of finding things. Alias CP equal to CP minus I. Control and X, yes, save. Let's prove it doesn't work if you log out. So we'll close that session and open a new one. There. Maximize it. There. And alias. There's no alias. Of course there's an alias if you clamped it new. Sorry. I should have logged out before I changed the bashrc, shouldn't I? Never mind. There's my alias. I was trying to prove that it doesn't stay there if you close the terminal. But we did do that last time. That's copy. Move, MV, is moving files. Now, every file has what's called an inode number, and you can view inode numbers with ls minus I. So that's all that's in a directory. It's like an index. It's a file name, directory or file, and a pointer to what's called an inode, which is a place on the disk where it stores all the information about a particular file. So if you cat a file like people, what it does, it goes to the directory, finds people, finds the inodes associated with people, and goes to the disk. And on the disk it finds out all the information about people, including its permissions, who owns it, what group it's in, how big it is, when it was last updated, and a pointer to where the data is. And then it goes and gets the data. What this means is if you rename a file, all it does is change that name. It doesn't have to do anything with the data. So moving a file is very quick. If I go back into N1 there and do an ls minus I, there are my files. And if I move now F1 to F4, it will create a new file called F4. Well, it doesn't really, does it? What it does, it changes what was F1 to F4. It takes the inode with it, 2962. So all it's done is rename that file. You can make move interactive as well with move minus I, and that is another good candidate for an alias. There's the alias there, alias MV to MV minus I, and there's an example of a move. I can move with -i, F2 to something that already exists, F4, and either not overwrite it. If you put an N or anything else other than the Y, it doesn't overwrite it. If you say yes, it overwrites it. You can do multiple files, just like we did before, but if you do that, the last thing in the line has to be a directory. So if I go back to my home directory, I can move with interaction, text1, an old file into N1. If you remember, text1 is already in there, so I'm not going to overwrite it. Old file isn't, so it's written it. And I don't have old file in my home directory anymore. I'll put it back later before we carry on with the next section. Moving directories. Dead easy moves a directory. It's the same thing. If you do an ls -i, a directory like N1 has an inode, and the directory there has an inode, and if you want to rename it, it just changes the name. So I could say move temp to temp1, move N1 to N2. And there's N2 with the same inode as N1. There's temp1 with the same inode as temp had. Copying directories is a bit more complicated, because if you copy a directory, rather than just changing the names in the index here, the inodes, it does have to add new ones. If you copy, you have to move the data. Now let's copy, or attempt to copy temp1 to temp. Now when you copy, it's, like I said, it's more complicated. It's the directory and all the files in the directory, so you can't do it like that. You need -r, as it says there. To copy a directory, copy -r. And then we get a new directory, sorry, I need to do that, -i, a new directory, temp, with a new inode, because it's completely new. Oh, this is where I type figlet exercise, so you can see that in the video. So we'll do the exercise now, and when you come back, I'll have the examples, or sorry, the exercise solutions on the screen. Okay, so here's the solution to the exercise. In the first one, you can move to credit. You can move to the SCR directory and copy credit and keys back into your home directory, or you can copy SCR credit and SCR keys into the current directory. To do it the other way, what you would do, you would cd to SCR and then say copy credit, keys, up level, like that. And they'll both work, I think, just to prove that works. What I'll do is I'll copy that and paste it up here. Yeah. Oh, I'm not in my home directory, am I? There's credit and keys copied into my home directory. So there's two solutions there for that one. I'll leave that in the solutions for future. Alright, create an alias and do the copies again. Actually, what I could do, be clever, is delete that and put it in there. So there we are, I think I've got both ways of doing it then. And the second way will pick up the alias, so you can overwrite them, yes or no. And then rename credit as my credit and fees as your keys. Go to your home directory. if you're not in it. So if you've done number 2 there, you might want to do a CD first to get back to your home directory. Move credit to my credit, move keys to your keys, and copy the directory temp belonging to train A, which will exist if you're using the virtual machine, and its contents into your own home directory. So it's copy -R because you're copying a directory. From KDM you go, so -R, up into, in this case KDM, down into train A. I want the temp directory, and I'm going to call it temp A. I've done CD again. What's the matter with me? Beg your pardon. Copy. There we go. Now I've got temp 1 and temp A. Okay, in the next bit we'll look at removing files. I'll shrink that and then I can stretch this. I quite like doing them in here, I think, so I'm going to stick with the Mint virtual machine. What's happened there? Oh, it goes. Just lagging behind. We'll clear that, and there are my current files. First, we're going to use a touch command to create some empty files. If a file already exists, what touch does is it timestamps it. If they don't exist, it creates an empty file. So we're going to create F1, F2, F3 and F4. Now I've got 4 empty files. And then if I want to remove them, I use RM. So I can remove F1 and F2, and they're gone. You can do it interactively, so I could remove -I, F3 and F4. Won't recall that one. Sorry, remove that one. We'll remove that one. And you can make an alias, same as within move and copy with the -I option. That's a good idea. Now, sometimes on courses people create files with weird names, spaces in the name, quotes in the name. This is a simple one. You can create an empty file with greater than, redirect the output to an empty file. Well, a file. Now I've got a file called -I. Now if I try and remove -I, it doesn't like it because it thinks -I is one of the options. Where's the file name? But the way to remove it is to give it the full path, which is home/kdm/-I, or dot, which is home-kdm-I, and that will remove it. There are a few other useful options with RM. One is -F. If you look at the people file here, it's the only one that doesn't have a W in its permissions. We'll cover permissions later, but what that means is that we don't have right permissions to it. And what happens if we try and remove it is we get a warning. I mean, you can say yes and it will remove it, but I haven't done that. You can force removal with -F. That will remove the people file without warning me that it's going to do it. You can also remove directories with -R. Remember, you can use rmdir, but only to remove empty directories. So I can't get rid of these new directories, temp1 and temp-A, like that, but I can if I do on rm-r, temp1. And you can, if you want, do rm-ir. So I could do rm -ir temp-a, and you can descend into the directory and delete some of the files. So that one, but not that one, but that one, but not that one, that sort of thing. Actually, I'll show you one of the things that works with aliases. If I alias rm to be rm-i, that's fine. If I'm just going to remove a single file, like f3, for instance. Yes. What happens if you try and remove a directory though, like temp-a? Now bear in mind that temp-a has got a lot of files in it. Might have 100 files in it. If you say rm -r temp-a, that's fine, except that the -i comes into play. So we descend into the directory and we have to say yes, yes for every file. Now the way you circumvent that is don't use the alias. And if you remember, if you escape rm, it uses the rm command, not the rm alias, and that will remove the directory and all its files. So that's got rid of temp and temp-a. The other things that are new there that I don't want, if I want to get back where I was, I want to remove credit, n2, and keys. And you're saying, well, n2 is a directory. Well, it is, yes. So in there I need -r. It's using the alias again, but there aren't so many things to remove this time. Well, at least I hope not. No, maybe I should have done it the other way. There we go. And we started with 13 files. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Lost one. Wonder which one. Old files missing. You can find out if I do an ls and look in train 1. This train 1's got the same files as me. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. It's old file. I can put it back by copying / train 1's version of old file into here. And now I've got 13 files the same. So I'm back where I was. Sorry, feel like I'm losing my voice here. That brings us nicely to an exercise. I must put this in a file. Why don't I do that now? Look, what you can do, if I say echo figlet exercise and put it in a file, which in this case I'm just going to call E, single letter file. There it is. If I make E, I mean this sort of thing is covered on the shell scripting course that I'm going to do after this course. That makes E executable, which means it appears in green, and I can run it with /E. It says exercise, lever, arrow. So have a look at the exercise, stop the video, have a go at it, come back, and the answers will be on the screen. Whoops, oh, that's popped up. Right, welcome back. Here's the exercise solutions. The first one, removing my credit and your keys interactively and checking they're not there. rm-i, my credit and your keys, ls will check that they've gone. Second one, make a new directory, mkdir new temp, and list what's in temp. Then copy a temp and b temp from temp into your new directory. There's two ways of doing that, I suppose. One is to copy temp a temp, temp b temp into new temp and list it, and the other is to cd into temp and copy a temp and b temp into, go up a level, / down into new temp and list new temp, which is below a level. Sorry, up and down a level if you're in temp. And then interactively remove the new temp directory and its contents you can do with rm-ir and then list to see that it's gone. So that's the solutions. I'll be posting the solutions later. And that brings us to, oh, there's my usual moan about people not subscribing, not liking, not commenting. I don't know if you're sharing. I know not many people are liking and commenting, and a few people are backing me with their hard-earned dollars. But there you go. It's all right. Wildcards, file name generation. Just wait for that to catch up with us. Go on then. Oh, there we go. Right. Actually, I'm going to rename E as .e so that it doesn't appear there, but it is there. And I can, sorry, it is there. There it is, .e, and I can run it with .space .e. If I want to put that up again next time. There we go. Right. Right, special characters. There are 3 special characters that you can use at the command line. They're called wildcards or meta characters, and this process is often called globbing for some reason. You have to Google it to find out why. There are lots of other characters that you can use, well, another 8 characters that you can use with regular expressions, which I'll explain about later on in the course. But for now, at the command line, these 3 sets of characters. And the way they work, asterisk matches any number of characters. But you have to be careful because it's any number including none. A question mark matches a single character. And the square brackets match a range of characters. Now, examples of this I usually do in the temp directory. If I cd into temp and do an ls, temp contains a set of files. There's nothing much in them, it's just the file names we're interested in, but they're weird and wonderful in that this one begins with a number and then text. These are single characters, upper and lower case. This one follows with a colon. This one is in quotes. And we'll look at how you can select certain characters. So if you're in there and you do an ls, you should see this set of files. Now the asterisk matches all the files in the current directory. So if you just use an asterisk, you get everything. You wouldn't bother with that. Suppose you wanted all the files that began with an A. Then A asterisk matches all files that begin with an A followed by anything else, because the asterisk matches anything in the file name including nothing. So you get little a on its own, but you don't get capital A because it's case sensitive. To get that, you need to use the square brackets. And within the square brackets, you can put an uppercase A and a lowercase a. And then I get anything that begins with an upper or a lowercase a. That's interesting actually, because it's found that one. I don't know if you're in a cat, but I think I'll have to stop for a minute and see what she wants. They're very demanding little cats, and we've got 3 kittens at the moment, but sweet. It's one of the joys of working at home. She's all right now. She has something to eat. It's a good job I know how to stop the video and then join all the pieces together, because this one's in 4 pieces already. Where was I? Yes, we were listing files that began with an upper or a lowercase a. So beginning with an A, ending with a P would be asterisk P. Starting with an A and ending with a P would be A asterisk P. She's just come upstairs, is now settling down between my feet to have a nap. There, let's see, you sit there and be quiet. Right, now over the page we'll do question mark. Now question mark matches a single character. So if you wanted files that contained 5 characters in their name, 5 question marks. Because a single character you would get with 1 question mark, and that would give you A, B and uppercase A. Files that begin with a single character followed by a word like temp, question mark TEMP. And then the square brackets you use for either or. So files that begin with an A, a B or a C. Now that's not beginning with A, B and C. That's files that are A, B or C. Beginning with, you need to trail that with an asterisk to get the rest of the file name. It's interesting though, if you do it like that, A, B, C, then you do it like this, you think, well, that's A to C. Well, you think that, wouldn't you? But it's not. Because A to C, oh no, it is. That's interesting. Just bear with me a minute. Let's open CentOS up and do the same thing in there and see if there's a difference, because I think there is. In here, come on. In here, if I cd into temp and then I do an ls square bracket A to C square bracket asterisk, it's different. I get A temp in uppercase and A in uppercase. Whereas on Mint, where's Mint? This is confusing. Let's have a look at VirtualBox here. That opening CentOS has closed Mint, which is weird. Although they might think, in their wisdom, VirtualBox, that you can only have one open at a time. But Mint seems to have died. It looks like it's rebooting, so I'll freeze for a minute. I'll just stop there for a minute, see what's going on. It looks like Mint 20 closed when I opened CentOS. But anyway, to get back where I was, into temp and do what I was doing. If it can remember where we were, it doesn't. I was doing an ls of square brackets ABC square brackets asterisk and comparing that with A to C. So obviously things are different between Mintos and the Red Hat derivatives CentOS and Fedora, in that the sequence here when it's looking for characters is A, B, C, D, E. The sequence on CentOS and Red Hat is A, B, B, C, C. So you get different things. You need to be aware of that if you're using it. What else can we do with Wildcards? Right, things that don't begin with, you can put a little hat symbol there and it means not. So this is all the files that don't begin with A, B or C. And of course you can put a hyphen there. And you're thinking, why would you want to do this? Well, suppose you wanted to see all the files in the train users we've got. If I have a look at the end of the password file, and it should be the same on the CentOS VM. We've got train 1, train 2, train A and train X. I've got train 3 as well actually, and user 1 and user 2. Don't want train 3. Show you how to get rid of a user, not something you do very often. -R deletes their directory and all their files. Train 3. That we'll get rid of train 3 who doesn't have any mail. And if I can tail the end of the password file again, that's better. I usually only have 1, 2, A and X. So suppose I want to see all their files, or files from certain users. I could do an ls, and from temp, this is over here in the notes. It's not up there, it's down here. Stop it. There. So ls, go up a level into to KDM, up a level again into home, down into train, but I want train 1, 2, 8 and X. So within square brackets, if I specify that, I will get train 1, train 2, train 8 and train X. You can actually see what it's doing, which is neat. This is in the notes. It's probably in the shell scripting notes. It might be in the notes later here. If you set on -X, actually is in the notes here somewhere later, and then run that again, what it does, it shows you what it's going to do. So there we are. It's going to do an ls -- color equals auto, which was my alias, and then it's going to pick up train 1, train 2, train A, train X. So it shows you the expanded command. The problem with that is it expands every command, so you need to turn it off again with set +X. Like I said, it is in the notes later on somewhere. So that's asterisk, question mark and square brackets. Now look, there's another exercise. So, whoops, this doesn't look right, does it? For some reason. Well, maybe it just needs moving over a bit. Like that, that's better. Okay, there's the review exercise. Which looks at, well, looks at finding files by name. So, find all the files in the SCR directory that begin with the character C. There's two ways of doing this. You can search the directory from here, or if you want to, you can change into the directory, SCR, and search the directory there. There's quite a lot of files in that directory. It's all example files that I use. Right, you've got 7 there. So, like I said, there's the exercise. Can't do that, can I? Oh, is that, wasn't it? Stop the video, have a go at the exercise, come back and you'll see the solutions. Right, here are the solutions. Like I said, you can do this in 2 ways. I prefer not to change directories but to do it like this. So I do ls space scr/c*, files that begin with a C. Files that contain the characters AS, it would be asterisk AS asterisk. So it's anything in the file name, then an AS, then anything else. If you're going to look for all files that begin with the character S from etc, you're doing ls/etc/s asterisk. Now the problem with that is, if any of those are directories, the default is to show you, as a directory, all the files in the directory, but these files don't begin with an S. So to suppress it, to stop it doing that, just show files and directory entries, what you do there is you put -D. And then you only see the files. Files that begin with a B followed by 3 characters in SCR is SCR/B 3 question marks RC. And then files that begin with a P that have only 7 characters in their name in etc, You can leave a D in, actually, it doesn't matter whether you put it in. Oh, I've got it in there. Is a P and 6 question mark. 7 characters in their name. In SCR, any files that contain, and a file is, a directory is a file. Everything's a file. So there are flat files, executable files, directories are files. So when I say files, I mean directories as well. Here we're going to do an ls again on SCR, anything, and then an X, a Y, or a Z, followed by anything else. And lastly, change into temp and remove all the files beginning with an A, a B, or a C. A, B, C. It says begins with, we put an asterisk on the end. And that's removed all those files in temp. Good. So if we we'll shrink that for now, we'll leave that again in a minute. There's only one more page, and then there's what in the classroom is done as a workshop, because it means people can chat and share and do the things together. You obviously can't do that. Well, you might be sharing at home with a friend if you're isolated in a couple somewhere, or you're doing this at work. But that was the idea. One last thing, as I said, WC is a command that can be used to count things. So if you say WC on a file like Linux, it tells you, I think we did this, how many lines, how many words, how many characters. Now, if you want to see everything, you can do WC. Hang on, let's do an ls up there. Let's clear the screen, do an ls. You can do WC asterisk. I mean, some of them are directories. You could actually, if you know what they're called, not do the directories. If you do WC, I don't want files that begin with. So desktop is a directory. SCR is a directory. I won't do temp because it because it's there's another file, text one, but that will stop it doing 2 of those. Just to give you the idea of how you can filter these things out. But anyway, we don't need to do that. We can do WC -L, which just lists lines in everything like that. So that's counting how many lines there are in each of these files. There's nothing on the desktop. It's like I've got nothing in temp. Oh, temp's a directory, so it's not actually counting that. No, it did not do. Oh no, it didn't that time. Now, one thing you can do with this is count things by piping into WC-L. So, for instance, I've got up here 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 files. I could count them by doing an ls and piping that into WC-L. It comes back with 11. If you want to count some files, you can do it like that. So that's the number of files found that begin with A, B or C. To do that, I'd have to change into temp. And if I want to know how many files begin with A, B or C, I do an ls. It's files that begin A, B or C, followed by anything else, piped into. It doesn't matter if there's spaces around the pipe symbol. I tend to put them in the notes so that you can see the pipe symbol, but it doesn't matter. There are 10 files there, hopefully, that begin with A, B or C. You can check that, like that. 9, 10. Now, when you're scripting, you quite often combine this sort of thing. The fact that it's 10, you can't echo 10 out to the user, but you can echo out to the user. You could echo out to the user a message saying how many files there were. Now the way it's done in the script is normally with an echo. What you can do is say echo number of files found equals, and then you put your command there. So the command is ls in square brackets abc square bracket asterisk, but we're going to pipe that into wc minus l. Now to get the bash shell to recognize that that's a command, you wrap it in dollar brackets like that. Anywhere that it sees that syntax in a line, it executes what's in the dollar brackets or what's in the brackets as a command. And what that gives you is a message that says number of files found equals 10. And quite often you use that sort of idea in a script. I'll be covering that on the scripting course. There is another way of doing it. You can use back quotes. A back quote is just below the escape key on most keyboards, I think. It's an older way of doing it, and I prefer not to because we've already got single quotes and double quotes. It's confusing enough having two lots of quotes. There's three lots of brackets, and they all do different things. That I don't need to use back quotes. Right, there's something funny going on there. I had a break and checked out the file. When I said all we had left to do was the workshop, what I actually showed you was the workshop answers. The actual workshop questions had gone missing from the PDF file. And when I looked, 2 other pages had gone missing as well. So I'm going to go back and go over those 2 pages. So you might have wondered when you were watching the video why I skipped 2 pages. After we did this one, question mark and square brackets, we should have done this page using wildcards with copy, RM and LS. So I'll just go over this bit and another page that was missing, and then we'll do the workshop. So suppose I make a new directory called N1, and no, that's no good. I'm supposed to be in temp, aren't I? Because I'm looking at all these files. In here I make a new directory called N1, and then I can copy files into it. So I could say copy all the files that begin with a B, all the files whose name ends with file, into N1, LSN1, and it's got files in it. And then if I want to remove what's in N1, I could actually do an RM interactively remove from N1 all the files. So I'll say remove the regular file, so you can say yes, yes, yes. If you didn't want some, you'd say no. There. Now there's only 1 file left in M1. No, the RM command. I don't know why people do this, but quite often on the Facebook groups that we're in, I find people coding things. Somebody new asks a simple question and people say type RM minus RF asterisk. Well, what do you think that does? It escapes the RM command, so if it's got minus I in it, it's not going to do anything, not going to interact. The minus R says delete directories and their contents. The minus F says force it with no warnings, and the asterisk matches everything. So if you do that, there's all my files. If I now do an RM, I haven't got an alias on, but it doesn't matter, minus RF asterisk, what's left when I type ls? Nothing. Well, I kept desktop. Not sure how it kept desktop actually, but never mind, we need the desktop. Now if you do that, make sure you've got a backup. I've got a backup. I can do a copy from minus R. If you're using your own Linux machine and you didn't back them up, you can always use the wget to get the files back again from a network. I can copy, including directories, go up a level. You can do this in CentOS as well. Train, if you can spell, train 1, everything in train 1, and copy it into my current working directory. There are some files in train 1 within SCR which we don't have permissions to copy, but we're not using them, so I'm going to ignore them for now. I don't think we need any of those. And there I've got back most of the files back where we started. Now searching is pointless doing this actually. This explains what you need to do in the review exercise that you've just done. But basically it says you can either, when you're looking for something that begins with, so ls on bin, I'll go over it again, files that begin with, I think that's an L asterisk, you can do it like that and get full path names, or you can cd into bin and do ls L asterisk. You get the same, sorry I missed out, semicolon there, 2 commands, it's better. So that's the same thing, but you don't get full path names. And the other thing was about using -d. So if you were to list all the files in var that begin with an L, some of them are directories. So you get the files in the directories. All I wanted was loc and local. I didn't want these file names. And the way you do that is to use the -d option after ls. I don't know why this works, but it does. If you want to list just directories and not files, you can do it like that. So I could cd into, if I do an ls on etc, you'll see that there are lots of files and directories in there in blue, but you just want the directories. You can cd into etc and do an ls -d. Now if you do it like that, you don't get anything. But if you put an asterisk slash, you get just directories. Like I said, I'm not sure how it works, but it does. So we've done the review exercise now, we've caught up. Oh no, it's not true actually, there's another page I missed. I'm sorry about this, but I'm not going to re-record the video just for that. You're getting the right things, just in a slightly different order. Okay, other Y files can be used to match letters, numbers or punctuation characters, and you do this using double brackets. There's an error there. There's only one bracket there. Should be double brackets. So what I'll do is I'll remind myself to change that and repost the PDF file. Oh well, there's the couple. The couple, there's the correct one with a couple of square brackets. So you do this in double square brackets. So an A says any single character in the alphabet. You can do lower or uppercase. You can do alphanumeric. You can do punctuation, you can do digits, and you can look for spaces. So there's a couple of examples there. If we go back to temp in here and have a look, there are file names there with digits in them. Oh god, the L's gone missing now. There should be an L before the S there. I don't know what's been happening to this file. Someone's been eating it. An ls, I'll fix that as well. Anything followed by a digit, it's colon digit asterisk like that. And one problem with this is you've got to be able to type. I've missed out the colon there. That's better. Occurred to me actually you could probably do it like this and say 0 to 9. Yeah, same thing. But punctuation is more complicated. to list punctuation, instead of the digit, you put punct, like that. And there are two. That one's got a colon in it, and those two have got quotes. There's the correct file. I just changed it. It doesn't take a minute to change it. And it doesn't matter if what's on the screen, as long as you've got the correct file. The odd spelling mistake won't make a difference. And that brings us to, we've done that. We've done combining commands, the workshop. And the workshop, I don't need to do the exercises because the exercises are over the page. So I'll leave you with the workshop to do. That's the end for today. Show you what I'm going to do this. I'm going to clear that, and then I'm going to save my session. Rather than powering it off, so it has to boot again, save the session. That will shut down this VirtualBox VM and save it for next time. I'll just go back here. So next, good heavens, look, what fun. Next time, whoa, it's gone. Next time we're doing Vim, the editor. And if you're frightened of Vim, don't be. Come on the course and I will show you in a very simple way how to use Vim. Don't forget, like, subscribe, comment, feedback, etc., recommend, and coffee. And I'll see you all again next time. Bye bye.